In 2005, a dozen eggs cost $1.22. A gallon of milk, $3.19. And the future? Rocket of the United States? Ares. Well, all those dreams have died, but one thing remains after 20 years. This is NSF and the Flame Trench. Roll the...
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, Atlantis.
Water towers, fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside of speed off. Bring in SPD off. It's orange!
R45. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Look at this! Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You dead? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Welcome everybody to the Flame Trench. If you are unaware, this is our weekly lighter news show where we go over some of the biggest topics in space news and have a little fun while doing it. Usually ring some fight bells, meow a bit, and make a whole bunch of puns. I'm Sawyer Rosenstein. I will be your host for today's TFT here at NSF, and I see all the 5x5s, which good to see that everyone can hear me. Always a nice thing here. Now, you may have noticed in the intro, I mentioned back to 2005, and yes, I even said the silly rocket's name just to make everyone happy out there, because 2005 was quite a different time, 20 years ago. And it was 20 years ago that NSF, NASASpaceflight.com, was founded. And we're going to talk about the history of that, along with some of the other awesome topics going on this week in spaceflight. To do so, I need some people to help me out for it. Joining me today is Adrian Bile. Adrian, how's it going?
Going absolutely fantastic. Looking forward here to another episode of the Flame Trench. I'm rarely on these, so it's gonna be a fun one, and I'm already looking forward to discuss rocket topics with you, Sawyer.
I'm looking forward to talking with you too, Adrian. Thank you. And we would not have NASASpaceflight.com and NSF if it wasn't for Mr. NSF official himself, Chris Bergen. Chris, how's it going?
Yeah, it's all my fault. Sorry about that. All my fault. I've been even rarer appearance on a Flame Trench for myself, but I thought I'd pop on and talk endlessly about the fun history behind NSF, which is now 20 years old, which makes me feel even older than normal. But there we go. Fun times.
Yeah, I think there's people that are a part of NSF here that work here that weren't even born when NSF was created. So hope you're feeling
Thanks for that,
old now. You're welcome. Now, a reminder, we have quite a bunch of stuff here with our 20th anniversary. Not even just because it's our 20th anniversary, because we love content. So we have the Flame Trench, and then coming up in about 90 minutes, we have one of our astronomy live shows from the Intrepid, talking about touching the sun and the recent amazing work done by the Parker Solar Probe. But you're like, wait a minute, what about TWIS? Don't worry, we'll get double the Elysia there with This Week in Spaceflight coming up immediately after the museum show. So we have hours of content loaded up for you here today, live at NSF, and then ending it with TWIS. So stick around for that. But let's start things off with the fact that NSF is 20 years old. Chris, I'm going to let you go back through memory lane.
All right, you can put your feet up now because this will take about half an hour at least. I was writing some notes down because I've said this story many a time, but every time I retell the story, it changes a little bit because I remember something different from the time. But I think the bulk of it is post-Columbia, really. It was after we lost Columbia. We're all shuttle fans at the time on various mailing lists. We're going back before the likes of Discord and all those different outlets of where you could communicate. It was basically mailing lists and a very new to the scene forum on space.com, which no longer exists, but they had a forum. literally a PHP forum, and that was pretty much the central point, bar the mailing list, where shuttle fans would go and talk. And after Columbia, it got quite grim. It was unmoderated. Imagine chat without moderation on most channels. It'd be terrible, wouldn't it? It was like that. It was just completely chaos all the time. But you'd spend time on there because you'd occasionally get a shuttle engineer or two talking on there. And that was like amazing for somebody overseas, being able to just literally message someone who works on the shuttle program. So that was fun. But it was a terrible place. And people were saying, we're sick of this place. Wish we had something different. And I was a journalist already by the time, and they said to me, why don't you start a news site up and have a forum with it? And I got a few people suggesting it. I was like, nah, no chance. I'd make a mess of it, and I'm not even American. It'd be stupid. But I got my arm twisted, shall we say, by a guy called Peter, who works at NASA headquarters, and he still does to this day. And he said, no, there's a few of us over here who would like you to start something up differently, and if you do, we'll help you out. So this is my first attempt of starting NSF, which is back in the day. It's a terrible looking site. These are all somebody who doesn't know how to create a website, basically attempting to make a website. This is before the days of the likes of Wix, where you could basically have AI just, build your own site for you. You had to literally build it from scratch, and I had a few people who were good at programming. They set up the programming side of it, and then I just propagated it. It was obviously Wayback Machine isn't finding a lot of the stuff now because it's a completely different site format now. But it also exists back in 2005. And of course, we actually set the domain up a little bit earlier, but this is the old site that was working. Now, you can look on the left-hand side on the menu there. You can see what we were covering. We were absolutely just about the shuttle. We had a few other subject areas, but it was mainly shuttle. It was focused on the shuttle. I very nearly called it shuttlespaceflight.com, which would have aged very badly. But the whole idea of this was a specialist site with a specialist forum to be replacing the space.com sort of like issues they had with a moderated forum where people could talk in freedom and also have shuttle engineers on there. They all came over. All of them came over, in fact, which was amazing. And basically just go from there. And it'd be like, 20, 30 people a day? It didn't matter. It was just an outlet for us all to have those conversations we wanted without all the grief that came with an unmoderated forum, and have a new site with it as well, which no one really did. No one had a new site like this at the time. So yeah, this is where we started. This is 2005, and you can see pretty much everything is an article a day, which I did after work. It took me an hour to write it. It was easy to do. I was getting a lot of help from the shuttle side of people. And there's the forum. There's the first forum. If you go to the bottom of the forum, Jay, you'll be able to see that we didn't have a lot of people on there. That was how it was pretty much going to be expected to be for the rest of its life. It was like, a handful of people at most, and just having different areas to talk in. Of course, things changed quite quickly because we were getting this information, and because I could write, we could do news articles. Those started getting linked in larger places, which then advertised us to other people. So you can imagine the way it kind of progressed from there. We had stories about the first return to flight mission where Discovery had a PAL ramp issue. I'm bringing Sawyer in, so I'm not talking all the time. Sawyer, do you remember STS-121, where they basically the first launch after Columbia, and they still had a large piece of foam fall off?
Oh, absolutely. I remember that. And the worries that they had afterwards of then having to check it. They were also working on test EVAs to test if they could add the gap fillers to see if those would work in the event that there was major tile damage. I think it was Eileen Collins, was it, that did one of the spacewalks on that? Or was at least on her mission where they did a spacewalk to test the new gap filler, and they almost had to do it on the real orbiter. And also interesting looking through just that they're seeing all of the names of the CEV, the future vehicles that they were expecting, the what else was there? The non-NASA manned spaceflight, how times have changed.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
still
that's the funny
talking about
thing.
the Russian Clipper as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
Still
Yes.
mentioned.
Yes. The fun thing is, I'm going back in my own mind now. It was the CEV, the Crew Exploration Vehicle, which was what became Orion. And then there was pretty much just Atlas and Delta II launches. There was Russian launches. And there was occasional European launches, which has not really changed. It's still occasional European launches to this day. But it was nothing that really kind of made you think, what's going to happen after the space shuttle program retires? Because remember, by now we already knew that the space shuttle program was going to be basically in its swan song. It was going to finish off the ISS, and that was it. And there was nothing else afterwards. CEV was the only thing that came afterwards. And it wasn't many years afterwards until we realized that that was having issues already, the Constellation program. But then I got an email about a year or so in from a certain guy called Elon Musk. And Elon said in this email, I wish I could show it, but I'm not going to show it because it's a private email. He says, I'm starting a rocket company. Would you like to interview me? So he must have heard about us. And again, we're still very small at the time. But he obviously thought the only other media out there were like large-scale media. There was only one specialist site, and that was us. We were the only specialist spaceflight site out there. It really was a case of that. And that's where we got to know SpaceX, and we got to know it. We did 4 interviews with Elon at the time, back in the early days. And we just went from there. And of course, that gains you more and more momentum. It's every time you do a story that other sites link to, it brings more people in. It's an awareness thing. So that's where we progress from there. And the next big thing that happened about a year or so in was a certain Mark in Holland, in the Netherlands, decided to post a dancing external tank video on our forum, much to the amusement of everybody. And I don't know how we got into a conversation. We got in a conversation and he said he was like a programmer. So Mark literally reprogrammed the entire site and basically is a founder, if you think about it, in every sense of the word, for doing that. And if we can go to the next one, Jay, in the list, you can see the difference between the first one you saw and how it looked after Mark got his claws into it. There we go. You can see now we're really improving a lot now. This is more like a new site, and this has all the bells and whistles of a new site you'd expect. Again, we're all just covering the shuttle program still mainly, apart from now with the commercial area of SpaceX becoming a Falcon 1 scenario where we're covering that as well. So this is really interesting how we progress further. But the night and day between the first screenshot you saw of NSF and where we are there is down to Mark. So I wish Mark was in chat. Mark is always very busy, but if he's not in chat, I'm going to thank him, make sure he hears it when he replays this video, because if it wasn't for Mark, we'd still probably be in a very dodgy kind of design and not going forward and not really progressing at all. L2 as well, Fingers mentions it in chat. L2 became a thing pretty much around that time, because we started gaining popularity, and it went from, and I remember how much it cost $25 a month to host NSF in the early days. And that was something I could personally pay for. The way you get more and more people in is you've got to scale up. And the scaling up was getting to a point where I was saying, well, I can't personally afford this. And there was no way of running adverts on a site like this, which would even cover it. Adverts don't pay the bills. It doesn't work that way. So it was suggested that we did a subscription area. And it was down to Peter at NASA and a few other people saying, look, we'll help you with stuff that we wouldn't want going on a full public site, but if you put it behind a subscription service, that'd be allowable. And that's how L2 started back in the early days, that we got all this. And then we had a free area to put as much big videos on there as we wanted to, because the server cost wouldn't be much, because it wasn't a large amount of people downloading it, because L2 subscription service. So that's how L2 started, and L2 now today is absolutely crazy massive. But it really is. That's back in the days. And
quick question.
Yes.
Do you really had Ares 1 in the logo?
No, that's obviously a bad screenshot. I don't know what went wrong with the screenshot there.
Yeah, I think there must have been like a glitch with the Wayback Machine, Chris, because for a moment, just a moment, it looked like there's an Ares 1 in the logo.
Nah, no, that's a solid rocket booster. That's just returning to Earth after being separated from the space shuttle.
Yes,
that's all it is.
That orange part at the top doesn't exist. It's a figment of
do not. Yes. Funny thing is, by around that time, Ares 1 was literally the shuttle replacement. So if you're thinking about it, it doesn't matter how much we didn't like it. It doesn't matter about the fact that it was struggling as far as its capabilities. That was the next rocket. You're not going to ignore it just because you don't like it. So that was the case. Was it what? Sorry?
I was asking Jay if he could scroll down a touch, because right below the Premier Space News ticket one, that the breakdown of the whole Ares 1X flight test vehicle. Wow.
Oh, yeah. To be fair, it was the only thing that was going to replace. There was no sign of even SLS at that time, there was no sign of SpaceX doing anything more than Falcon 1 at that stage. And now they progressed to Falcon 9, but it was in that scenario where the third flight of Falcon 1 failed. And it did look like it was game over for SpaceX. But as the story goes, and if you read Eric Berger's book, and what we knew at the time anyway, was that they found enough spare parts and just enough money to fly a fourth time. And the fourth one passed, and that's where the COTS contract kicked in from NASA, and it was just from then onwards SpaceX just accelerated because they were then on to Falcon 9, and we know the story what happened since. But it was pretty much touch and go for SpaceX at the time. So what else was there out there? There's a lot of forks in the road, not just for us, but also for the space industry. The fact that SpaceX is now the big boy in town, if you could say it that way. But yeah, it's absolutely fascinating that we've gone that way. Some of the big stories I want to mention is that we had the power ramp held on shore, but the biggest story we had as far as influx of people was the roller coaster on Ares 1. If you remember, Sawyer, there was a trade study on the emergency egress system for 39B for the Ares 1 crewed rocket, and they down selected it to the roller coaster system designed in tandem with Disney. True story, Disney personnel were on the trade study, and they were going to basically ride a roller coaster down the side of the fixed service structure, down into a bunker. And that is something that we put out there as a news story because we had the PDFs in it. We still have the PDFs in L2. And USA Today didn't believe it and actually sent me an email saying, "Is this true?" And I said, "Yes." And I personally think they didn't believe me, and every right to not believe me because who am I and who is NSF at the time? We're a small site and I'm a nobody. They emailed NASA and got NASA to confirm it and then ran the story but linked back to us. So I thought that was really well done on their part that they credited us for the story because they could have easily taken it themselves. But I think they went out there to disprove it. But when they found out it was true, we got a link back and we got thousands of people through that. Thousands and thousands of people came through that. And that's what accelerated us even further. So you can imagine the progression story there. Trying to get through the timeline of the story, we had the likes of Chris Gebhardt join in our forum, and I think this story applies to a lot of people. A lot of people found us before the YouTube channel, remember, in our forum, and they would post their own stories and ask their own questions and make their own threads. And I think at some point I was saying we were looking for more writers, and Chris G is one example I could bring up of many who said, I can write. And basically, we gave him a trial article, and of course, we all know how good Chris G a writer is. So the draft came back, and I was like, yep, we'll have you. So it literally, a lot of the people who working for us came through from our community. And that's a massive thing. And the full circle is Chris G, Thomas Berghardt, Ian Atkinson, Trevor, and I'm sure there's other people as well, have all left us since. And that is usually a terrible thing. That's sad. You know, it was a nice run while we had them. They've all gone to SpaceX. I mean, if that isn't one of the most proudest things I could say about NSF, I don't know what is, because that is where they've been found working for us and been taken by SpaceX, which is really, really impressive. Chris G's case, absolutely. So it really is a real feather in our cap, shall we say, that the people who you may be missing now are people who have gone on to much bigger and better things. We can't compete with a career at SpaceX, and I wouldn't even pretend that we could. So that is amazing.
I have to ask you a question, Chris. At the very top, with the bragging there, L2, now over 4,000 gigabytes.
It's a lot more than that now.
I was wondering, do you know how big it is now?
I don't, but I just know that we put so much content in there daily that when people join L2 just to get to the archived areas of it, the historical stuff that we've got there, the shuttle, the Constellation, the SLS, the whole things that have been running in there, which you can't get anywhere else, they're then surprised by the fact that every single day we're adding a bunch of stuff, such as, I gave an example the other day on the Raptor side, that we have high-res large amounts of flyovers from just the past week of Starbase, of Firefly, Briggs, McGregor, Texas, and KSC and the Cape. So I mean, that's when we're constantly generating more things in there. So that's where we don't like to over advertise it because people think that you're hiding stuff behind a paywall. I would say our open forum itself, which is free, would hold itself in any, against anybody else. It's just that if you do happen to like all that free stuff, L2 is probably your next elevation step, and that helps us as well because L2 is pretty much what my pride and joy is as far as a subscription service goes. And of course, there's no one getting a cut from that, like when you're on YouTube and what have you. There's no one getting a cut. It's going straight direct towards NSS Progress.
Also, I want to buy that CD they keep advertising, even though I don't have a CD player anymore.
That's really... We shouldn't really look through the old forum, Jay, because that is really old. That is so old.
New
But
CD, click here. Love the old ads, too, from 08.
If you click on the next news site link that I gave you from Wayback Machine, we'll see another progression forward. I'm sure you will. Because
While
that
you're
is
doing
the
that,
next
by the way, I
elevation.
want to take a second while he's loading that, just if I can, to thank a couple people here real quick before it gets too backed up. Astrophysics, thanks for becoming a PadRat member. Jacob becoming a PadRat member. Chromatic gifting a Red Team membership. Chris W. then gifting 2 Red Team memberships. Then Chromatic again gifting another Red Team membership. Then Mr. One Wolf gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Then Dougal gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Then Stefan Dex gifting a Red Team membership as well. So many gifted memberships, so thank you. That's how we're able to do what we do and continue to have the news site become what it is today compared to the next one, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, when Sawyer says that, when I say that, when people say that, I can't stress enough how much it is. You cannot run a channel like this just based on the ads alone. It doesn't work that way. It never could work that way. It really is a case of that it's the support of the community and the memberships. And it'll apply to every channel. So if you're a fan of other channels as well, I'm saying on their behalf. I really mean that. Unless you're a channel where you're just basically just talking over someone else's content, that's easy, that's cheap. But if you're generating original content, if you're one of those channels, that's a lot of money you're spending to get to that point. And then putting it out there and hoping for the best, because YouTube's algorithm can be hit and miss on if a video does well or not. We can do all that regardless of a hit and miss on the algorithm, thanks to the support of the memberships, and it would not work without it. Here we go. Next evolution of the site. This is a step up. We're not there yet. We're not there to the second to last, but this is where we can see we're pushing forward. We're constantly improving the site best we can. The store on the right-hand side there is not the store we've got now. The store we got there was basically just our logo on various merch. We have since completely redone, thanks to Mark and Adrian, and we've got loads of people behind the team, haven't we now as well, Adrian? But we'll come to that in a second because the store is a separate thing. But that store is the old store. That is terrible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, it's great. We can go actually on to the next one. It's loading, I think. Oh, I can't believe you're clicking on this, Jay. It's like a terrible store. Luckily, we didn't. It was just because people wanted our stuff on a T-shirt, and I did as well. But there's nothing in there that's anything close to what we do now. We have professional people doing the store now and professional merch, not just like slapping our logo on a T-shirt. We can see the forums moving on now. The forums moving as well.
Wait,
by the way,
slapping a logo on a T-shirt.
While we're talking about just the forum and the news site, by the way, if there's people in here right now who are good at programming sites, such as what you're seeing, WordPress and a WordPress CMS site, which is the new site, and we currently use SMF, but it's a PHP, basically, so you're a PHP programmer. If you're one of those people, get in touch with me because we can always do with more tweaking and improvements. Mark is a very, very busy man in his day job, so we can't just rely on Mark all the time for changes. We would definitely like more people who can do that programming to help us out and move the site forward, because there's plenty of things we want to plan for it and do with it, especially in this modern era where everyone's tend to use social media. A forum can be quite old, but it's very important we keep the forum, because the forum is a massive 20-year database of stuff, content just from when we started posting on there. So that's the important thing.
I mean, Chris, almost all of our people, like I think Sawyer's in my journey as well, like just started with, I don't know, like being motivated enough to send you or Das or anybody a message. And I feel like sometimes it just like works out, right? Like there's a lot of people here that just know new NSF, maybe watched NSF. Like I can, for example, say that I just watched NSF and read NSF and got interested to write for NSF. And I think that's for a lot of people in the team where we're just like be brave enough to just send a message and say, hey, I can do this.
I literally went up to Chris G at one of the Artemis scrubs and said, hey, anywhere that I could help out with NSF? And that's how that started.
Yeah.
I was going to get to that. I was going to come to the part where I was going to ask each of you how you found NSF and got involved, but there's many a story. The segue is because there's someone very important I want to mention as well, but that is more when we get onto the YouTube side of things. I think I've got one more old screenshot, Jay, to go, because we're going through the logos. In fact, you know what, Jay? We could also do the logo thing, couldn't we? But you can start seeing a clue about what I want to talk about next with the very cropped out version of Bless Her Mary's terrible watermark that I used to do. Because it's not great. I think if you click on that, it might go full screen. Let's see if Jay can click on that, the chopsticks. Here we go. And it should uncrop Mary's, not watermark, but it's basically just where it comes up. Wayback Machine's thinking. Wayback Machine is still thinking. Wayback Machine is still thinking. But you can imagine where we are now. We're already into Starbase coverage, and you're thinking, well, wow, Starbase coverage, and you've got your own photographs and stuff. There's a story behind this, and it's Mary. So on our forum, I was talking about the forum. I don't think it's going to load, is it? Oh, it is. There we go. We've got it. There it is. Copyright Boca Chica Gal. That's spaceflight.com. That's when Mary first started doing content for us. But there's a story behind that. Mary was actually there. She's living in Boca Chica Village before Starbase arrived, and was posting photos and clips as attachments to our forum threads covering Starbase on the forum. Now, anybody who's a programmer will know the worst thing you can do is have attachments of large megabytes on a forum thread where people can hotlink it onto Reddit and places like that. Your servers just get absolutely wrecked. So I said to Mary, Mary, I've got an idea. Why don't we put the videos on YouTube? So if we can bring up that first link in YouTube where I mentioned it, Jay, and go to the oldest first. Basically, we were just putting clips on YouTube and then linking the YouTube video into the forum to save on our server cost. That was the only reason for starting a YouTube channel. People think, oh, you had some big master plan behind this channel, didn't you, Chris? No. We didn't. We had basically a way of alleviating the stress of the forum by putting Mary's clips on YouTube and then linking the YouTube inside the threads, which was a way of not hosting the videos. So that was a way we did it, and that's why we started the channel. Amazingly, because people were interested in Starship and Starbase, quite a few people were clicking on these in the early days. If you look at the view counts, they're not massive, but think about it. This is back in the days where there was hardly any subscribers. That's not too bad at all. Look at the things that are happening. Starhopper. The first test of Starhopper. And then eventually I thought, well, hang on, this channel's getting some momentum, so I'll put some L2 videos in there as well, some older videos from L2, such as the STS-93. Sawyer, remember STS-93?
Yikes.
You bet.
Concur. We don't
need any more of these. That's right, yeah. That's where that comes from, by the way, boys and girls. That's from STS-93. That is John Shannon at the end of it, basically talking to his controllers like, ooh, that wasn't good.
I think one of the first things that I remember watching on NSF's YouTube channel was the Falcon Heavy Static Fire, as I see that pop up there. That was a good flashback. That's
another little segue. I wanted to make sure Mary got her own little thing because Mary is the reason for this channel. If Mary had said no, and she had every right to do, because it was her clips and her videos and her photographs, Mary could have easily said, no, I want them on the forum, I don't want them on YouTube. There would not be a channel. There'd be no NSF channel. Yes, I'm saying it straight away. I can't think of another route, another path, another reason why we would have started a channel. It's not our thing. So that's the reason why we started a channel. And then it was when we started going down to KSC and what have you. I think it's Chris G was going down to KSC because he used to live in Daytona Beach. We were like looking for video content and what have you. He bumped into Daz, covering for the Kerbal Space Program.
KSA, Kerbal Space Academy.
Because that's yeah, exactly. I always say that wrong for some reason. I'm so obsessed with the word program. And basically, they got in a conversation about, maybe we should start streaming. And unbeknown to me, Daz is one of the cleverest people I've come across. He is. I mean, Adrian, you're probably able to word it better because I've been talking too long now. My brain won't work. But Daz is an absolute genius level. He comes across as fun, and he is fun. Comes across as fun on streams and full life and what have you. But he's super clever, super clever, Adrian.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Working with him every single day, I can totally I was not around when all of this happened at NSF, but I can totally imagine how that exactly played out. I have no hard time imagining exactly that process. And I think also next to that, all the process, because that's also the time when I think Jack started to edit the dailies, right? There was one daily each day edited and stuff like that. There's I can totally imagine how that happened. I didn't even know about NSF back when that happened.
One thing I remember vividly was we were at 37. It was actually, I think it was Parker Solar Probe, quite appropriate with the Intrepid Museum show coming up right after this. And I remember seeing Daz on camera talking with Chris G. I'm like, oh wow, they are really good together, the two of them. They were on Daz's stream. And then realizing, wait a minute, they're actually working together now for NSF. So it was a small world of seeing that going, oh, they'd be good together on camera doing stuff. And they did.
Yeah, it's people in chat keep saying, why don't you turn your camera on? I used to go on camera in the early streams we did. I don't go on stream recently for reasons that we won't need to get into, but basically health issues. What I will say is that because of that, one of the reasons why I'm mentioning it, and I don't like talking about it, is Daz is very much head of NSF now, and I could not be prouder. It's the reason why we are accelerating quite a lot, and because Daz is taking this leadership role. But I have too many people to thank, because we talk about people finding us and getting involved with us. I have lost track of the amount of people we've found who is absolutely brilliant at what they do. And we could have gone out and put an advertisement up on some big production, some big publication, and I don't think we'd have got the same amount of great people as we have almost organically, if that makes any sense. But basically, I'm going to go back to start. I kind of I was too busy looking at Jay clicking on things before I was totally listening. But let's go through everybody. Adrian, tell me your story about how you found us.
So I was interested in. I started watching Spaceflight with Falcon Heavy. I was I'm one of these people that will tell you Falcon Heavy got me hooked. I actually started watching 2 or 3 Falcon 9s before that. And then I was lucky because the third launch I ever watched was Falcon Heavy. So that's kind of good to get hooked on Spaceflight. And then you start to consume everything, right? You start to consume every single content you can. And at some point, the whole Starhopper action started. And I watched the footage from Starbase of that. And as you all know, I love tracking things. So NSF gave me a good ground to start to track stuff. And I think at some point somebody in the Discord, I was very early in the NSF Discord, said somebody really should track these tests and mark all the milestones. And I kind of had time back then. I was on a vacation on my back then job, and I did it. And then I became relatively good friends with Trevor and with Jack. That's were my 2 NSFers I had first contact with. I talked a lot with Jack about KSP. I talked a lot with Trevor, and I think both of them kind of encouraged me to apply as a writer at NSF. And I kind of just did it almost as a I didn't really think I would have a chance, honestly. And I talked to Chris. Chris knew me from the spreadsheets, and Chris said, "You know what? Write an article. Just show us what you can do." I wrote that article, and then over time I took more and more roles, as it happens with NSF, because if you're involved with NSF, you sometimes snowball into more things with NSF. And yeah, that's kind of my story, how I got here.
Amazing. Amazing. I remember the spreadsheets. The spreadsheets. Yay. Sawyer, tell us your full story. I'm sure I've heard it many times, and I've heard the story from most people many times, but sometimes the community just likes to hear it again. So, Sawyer, tell us how you found us and then got involved.
So, I mean, years ago, I got into spaceflight after STS-118. Was the first shuttle launch that I saw live from launch to landing, and I loved it. So obviously, I ended up in the forums quite a bunch in the early days with that. And then I had my podcast, Talking Space, and would go down to the launch as media. After the shuttle program ended, it was basically dead. There was maybe 15, 20 regular people there. That was it for media. And of course, one of them was Chris G. And so it was me, a guy named Robin, a guy named Thaddeus, and Chris. And we would all hang out there in the early days. We're talking CRS 11, CRS 12, going way back. And so I got to know them all very well, obviously connect with that. I've known Das since I was in college back in 2014, 2015. And so I just kind of went through my job knowing that I wanted to be in space journalism as a career. So I went into regular TV news, but still went to the launches. After I left TV news, I was at, one of the Artemis scrubs, and I was trying to figure out what to do for a job. Could I get a job in this industry? So obviously I knew NSF, watched NSF, and just went up to Chris G. I'm like, hey, Chris, any potential for any openings or, things I could do at NSF? He's like, I think we can find something. And apparently reached out to you and Das, and you both said yes, and here I am.
There we go. Amazing. I wish we could get everybody on. I wish we could get everybody on a microphone and just go through his stories, because I love it as well. I mean, I love hearing his stories. Most of all, especially, I'm thinking, thank God I did reply to them, because I get so many messages and DMs and emails. I can't get to everybody. I try my best, but it's like really impossible sometimes. So I'm just thankful that I did get to reply to these people we're talking to now. I'm going to go back in time a little bit more again. I did mention Mary as a reason. We also had Nomad out there. Nomad used to live out at Starbase as well, and Nomad used to put photographs in L2 all the time. And he's still around, Nomad. It was basically, this is back in the time where Starbase was nothing more than a tent and hopper, remember? So there was not a lot going on there. But the way we've accelerated from there is we took clips from Mary. I used to do the first videos via Bandicam. I'm not even joking. I love Bandicam. I still do. But it was basically just clip parades. But then we got the editors in like Jack and people like that. And we've had lots of editors come in since as well who professionally put the videos together. But I think it was the live streams that really accelerated us on, because just the fact that we could do original content with our live streams. I think Jay has got the first one we did as a live stream. Here we go.
That's what it looks like with the SN4 testing. Wow.
Wow. I mean, this is back in the days of Mary taking a camera out there and getting it hooked up to the internet. And Mary was brilliant because the batteries on these cameras don't last forever. So you'd have to do a battery swap, and Mary got the battery swap down to a Formula One team. I remember it was just so fast. It was like almost funny, but it was just amazing. Mary is an absolute unsung hero. It really
Rocket
is.
Lab should have hired her.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact, it's got nothing to do with the fact that she lives there. It's just that she's really good. She's got a great eye as well for what she's looking at, and that's why the photos are great and the videos are great. But yeah, this is where we started realizing that there was actually quite a lot of interest in streaming this early days of Starbase. So remember, it's still the early days of Starbase, very much the early days. And just filming history, we have in our channel pretty much everything from Hopper onwards, which is really great to say that. But we managed to generate enough interest and enough support from the community that we got to a point where we literally bought land around the launch site in public areas, obviously. And basically that's where all our cameras are on Starbase Live. A lot of them are in plots of land that we literally own. And I've got camera installations that are not cheap, because it's not like putting a GoPro in the ground. It's literally proper camera installations with solar panels and battery packs. Battery panels. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Technical stuff I don't even know about. But I've looked at the pictures of them and they look very complicated. So that's what you've all achieved. That everyone in chat right now and everyone else in the community, it may not be on the stream, your support literally has gone towards making that happen. This is not something where we could go to a bank and say, can we get a bank loan and just basically gamble that Starbase is going to be of interest. We've basically just taken it month by month, year by year, taking the support and just built up and built up and built up, and we'll continue to do that all the time, all the way through.
Also, I like how we had it in the top right corner instead of the top left, and we didn't have any clocks. Not that people still look at the clock in the corner anyway now, but
I think that's probably the next step of evolution, is that we had these streams, but we then got in the likes of producers, people like Kevin Michael Reed, who you all know, God. And we've got Jay in the background now, Jay, who is like mini God today, aren't you, Jay? Jay, you're going to say a word on stream. Go on, say a word on stream. Go on, Jay.
Jake Keegan running the stream says no.
Jay.
I feel like we really need to not push our producer's ego more by calling them God on air.
Well, it was because we called Kevin Michael Reed God because it sounded like a big booming voice from the heavens. That's where it came from.
True.
Yeah, so that worked. I'm desperately want to hear Jay just say something live on a stream.
Let's see. He's shy.
Also, I love the evolution of the ticker, aka it's still the same.
Yeah,
But yeah, I tell you what. You know what? You know what I'm like. I will ramble and ramble and ramble. If anyone's got questions, ask me. I mean, I'm pretty much an open book. So if you do have any questions about the site, the history, or where we're going to go in the future, just do them in chat. I don't know if we've got any in the panel, Sawyer, but I'll definitely take questions.
I mean, we have a ridiculous amount of support that I also just want to hit here first, and then I'll get to the questions if that's okay. Eric Fraser saying, happy birthday, NSF, so glad you were born. Bideford with a $50 super chat saying, wish we all could see my favorite non-relative Brit, Chris. And then Bideford with another $50 saying, happy to see my favorite German, Adrian, and my favorite now Floridian, Sawyer. Thank you. Rankley with the $20 super chat. Happy 20th NSF. I pretty much quit following space-related content after the shuttle retired, and you all helped me fall back in love with everything after your SN8 live feed. This is a special group of incredible people. Wow. Thank you. The Space Pope with a $50 super chat. Blessing this trench. Sorry I was late working on a new music video for Jack. Intrigued?
Oh, no. Actually, Space Pope does amazing work. I've seen Space Pope's work. It really is very good. It's very professional.
John James with the 50 curly L's. Happy birthday, NSF from Yorkshire.
Yay.
William Nancaro, I hope I'm saying that right, with the $50 super chat as well. Holy cow, thank you for the generosity from everyone. I didn't know all this amazing history of NSF. Your place in space journalism is secure, so glad to be a member. Thank you so much for that. And Newtopia Labs gifting 5 Red Team memberships, and Rankley with the $5 tip at tips.nasaspaceflight.com saying, I'm 100% on board if you want to do a retro 2005 NSF logo on a t-shirt.
No, I don't know how I designed that. I mean, I'm graphically terrible, so I was quite proud of how that came across, the original one. Jay, have we got the stinger thing where it just goes through all the logos? Because that'd be just a fun way to end this, to show the evolution. Because that's one of the reasons why I went to NSF. Too many people were saying, I'm NASA. And I was like, oh, no, we're not NASA. Do we sound like we're NASA? Do we look like we're NASA? We're not NASA. So we thought, everyone calling us NSF for years and years and years. We thought, well, hang on a minute, let's call us NSF. You know, so that's why we made the evolution from the old logos through to where we are now with NSF. And it seems to fit a lot better now. It's a less of a mouthful for a start. We've still got the URL. That's Spaceflight YV. And by the way, we've got the rare honor of actual permission from NASA headquarters to use NASA in the URL. Literally has written permission from NASA, which is really cool because, you know, I don't know if you have to have that, but it's something that we we do have. So I can't talk now, Adrian. My brain's going, but it's a case of like, it's incredible that we do officially have permission to use that name, which is great. People keep asking for my face reveal. I have been on streams before. I'm not going to be on streams for a while. For reasons that you don't need to know about, but it's health reasons. One of the reasons why Daz is taking over the show is not because of that. Daz is just a genius and far cleverer than me. Simple as that. There we go.
By the way, Keith wants to know, when did you first interview Elon?
2006.
And asking if they're still on the site somewhere.
There will be, yes. I will try and find them for you. We definitely have them in links. I think the old site format makes them a mess, but I definitely have 4 articles based on interviews. It was in Elon's car. Elon did a phone interview in his car. I think this is pre-Tesla, maybe. I don't know. But I will try and find them, and I'll spam them in chat if I find them.
And then the other question was about deciding to start Starbase Live. When and why?
Oh my word! Well, we started with the was it Adrian? Can you remember? Was it the highway camera? Was the first camera that was a live 24/7 camera? Was it Mars camera highway maybe?
I think the first spot. I have no idea actually. That's a weird thing. I've no idea what was the first spot.
Everything sort of like falls into a crazy collage of memories when you're involved with this every single day. And been doing it for 20 years. And I don't think I've had a holiday in 20 years. So I really don't think I have. So it's a case of like everything mumbles into place. I will find the answers to that because that is fascinating. But we basically, I think it was Mars at Highway site, and then we had another camera at Highway site, and then we had a camera at River, one at South.
Jack is saying it was North.
It was North, was it? Oh my word!
North and Danger. Okay, North and the camera at Danger Lord.
Wow. There we go. So that's, yeah, our first property was at North. Yeah, so we've got all these sites. It's incredible, really. Again, I sound like I'm overplaying this. I'm not. We could not do this without the community. We could not do it. It would not work. We could not afford to do this without the community. This is where we can also say that when you do support us, and I don't expect everybody to do it, not everybody's got disposable income. In fact, most people don't. So if you're a guest and you're a long-time fan of us, I'm just as happy that you're with us than if you were doing a massive super chat. Seriously. And I really do mean that. It's a case of that. Where was I going with this? I had something to say. It was basically, it would be impossible to do without it. I mean, literally is. And that's what we're planning for the future as well. I think there was some kind of little blurb of what to do about the future. We have lots of plans in the future, but look where we are now. We're doing official live streams now for the likes of Firefly. Adrian? We're doing official live streams for other companies as well, aren't we?
Yeah, for ESA Aerospace. I mean, that's that's official as well that we did that. So it's kind of impressive that this company is at the point where launch companies contact us and are like, "Hey, can you film this launch with us?" Like that's, I think that's crazy. Like that's such a, I mean, it's coming down to the expertise that we have in this team. Like, bring all the rocket photographers that we have into a room and count how many launches they have filmed. Like, crazy number.
And as you pointed out, NSF will be the broadcast partner for the upcoming Firefly launch, currently scheduled for no earlier than Sunday.
Yep, we've done Strato launch, we've done Astra. Again, this is all thanks to Daz, really. I mean, Daz and the team have done amazing work. These are things that I would not have been able to achieve without those people. There's no way I could have done that. No way I could have organised that. And it goes the same for the land we've got. I mean, the land we got at Starbase. Zap fan asks, how was the process of buying plots of land? Not easy. But luckily we did it years ago when it was just still about affordable. I doubt it's absolutely impossible to get more land now because of just the way the Starbase has grown. And, people, I think, I've seen some plots of land going for like stupid money, like 7 figures. There's no way you could do it. Little parcels of land. So luckily we did it when it was still viable, but it was still expensive back then. And it was a heck of a process to do it right. But luckily we do things right. And that's where it's all worked out. I'm going to end my babbling by asking Jay to play our logo evolution from where we started to where we are now in a 30-second clip. Great music. We didn't find out who designed the music for that, did we? Maybe it was like Ryan Caton. I wonder if it's Ryan Caton.
I know that was edited by the graphics department, aka Ryan Caton.
Yeah, the whole
there we go.
graphics department.
Yeah, Ryan's gone for his first copyright-free music selection choice that came up on the list. There we go. Great. I tell you what, Yeah, again, if you got it, I'll hang around for a bit longer. So if you've got any more questions, I'll take them. But I think I've rambled enough. But I just want to end by saying probably the most important thing that I don't say enough, but is something that's very important for me to say for my own peace of mind, is that, you know, I started NSF with the intention of being small, being a relief valve to what the issues were on the internet as far as being able to talk about the Space Shuttle program. And I did it with that intention. No other large intentions, no ambitious plans, no live streams, no YouTube channel. Just a site with a forum, something that I could basically, you know, almost homemade, like a hobby site almost. That's literally how we started it. There was no big intentions behind this. And it just grew. But it grew because the people in the community exponentially grew and then joined our team, and they just happen to be amazing talent. Everybody we've got working at NSF is an amazing talent, and there's so many forks in the road where certain people may have not found us and may have not joined, and I'm forever grateful that we've got the team that we've got, because it is important. This is still my baby. I'm obviously a bit of a backseat role for reasons I mentioned earlier, compared to what I used to be. But thank goodness I am, because the people who are in control of this, have got the reins of this, are friends and extremely good at what they do. So I am forever grateful for the team, but I'm also forever grateful for the community, because the community is a fun place. I enjoy, during stressful times of life, going on to NSF and talking in chat on SBL. You know, I don't get away from NSF to get relief. I come to NSF to get relief, which is an amazing thing to say, and that is thanks to our community. So that's my end off. Thank you for having me, and let's talk about something else.
Yes, well, let me first finish going through the support here, and then we'll move on to our other topics here on the Flame Trench. Ethereal Swordsman saying Raptor horizontal burning didn't scare me as I was investigating things there when it went. Totally not. And then saying that was a Raptor, the horizontal, Raptor horizontal, RH, burn just finished 372 seconds. Yes, we have McGregor live as well, expanding to 3 different live 24/7 sites, which is pretty awesome. Roseanne DeVasto with a $50 super chat saying this site is awesome. Please create anniversary merch. Adrian?
Step by. We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Wilbo Baggins with the 2 curly L's saying special show. Special indeed. Thank you everyone who's here. Laser Tech with a $50 super chat as well saying here's to another 20 years. And then Jacob coming in here, community gives encouragement and financial support, both equally important. Happy anniversary. Thank you so very much for all that, and thank you all for being here at NSF. We love having you.
Can we play that NSF stinger, Jay? Do we have that? I'm not sure if we have that.
Because apparently there's something here that people might not notice is in it.
Can you do that again? Because I feel like people did people notice there's the Falcon 9 flying through it as well at the beginning? Because apparently people are not noticing that.
I knew it was there, but I totally forgot about it until it was mentioned. That's why I had to rewatch it and go, oh yeah. I see it all the time, and it's just like, oh yeah. Well, that one, I didn't see it.
Oh yeah, that one doesn't have it, but there's another one here. I think in the video it was, and people didn't notice that?
I think that's why I was confused, because that one I only saw the shuttle going through, but...
Yeah. Jay, yeah, just without sound order, I know, but like... There!
Oh, that part. Yeah, I thought... Yeah. When you said the Falcon 9 going through, I thought you meant through, like, the shuttle, not that
no, it goes
raises
up, it's
the end.
the beginning of the end. Yeah, it's not in the new one. Okay, it's not in the... But people apparently didn't notice that it was in the first version.
Yeah.
So, there we go. I just wanted to point that out.
Chat, did you notice? Honest truth, did you know that, chat?
Sorry, Jay.
See, a mix of yeses and nos.
There we go. Yeah. Sorry, we have apparently 31 minutes now to talk about the other 2 topics we have, so good luck us.
Yeah. Well, we'll quickly hit the second stage in the room and mention really quickly here, New Glenn firing up their second stage. We had a static fire just the other day of GS2 Glen Stage 2. Adrian, as our resident New Glen fan here, you want to take this one real quick?
I mean, it's good to see them hitting the ground running here, I think. Of course, we have recently seen them complete their investigation into Flight 1. To be fair, this stage did, from what we can tell, flawlessly. Like, there was no point of GS2 that didn't work, and them getting the second stage here ready again, firing it, powering up these BE3Us, amazing. We know they still want to launch somewhere in spring, is what they're saying. I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes more of a summer thing, because, I mean, sorry, we know rockets. It's a thing of when rocket companies say spring, it's most likely summer. And if they say Q4, it's Q1 of the next year. So that is just how it goes. But yeah, I mean, honestly, seemed fairly clean. They're really getting into it and starting to get this cadence running. We know there's more to come. We have seen on the last flyover that there's another GS2 bidding ready. GS2, by the way, Glen Stage 2, just remembering that. Yeah, now the big question, of course, becomes how far is that GS1? How far is that booster ready? When we will see that? Because once that booster is static fired, I mean, honestly, that's kind of their campaign for the next flight. So we might see another 1 or 2 New Glen flights this year. I mean, honestly, at this point, I feel like it's almost pessimistic to just say 1. Like, I feel like they have a very good chance to hit at least 2.
I think so. I mean, the real question, as you see there, Dave Lip talking about the amazing performance, getting even enhanced performance, increasing max thrust from 173,000 pounds of force to 175,000 pounds of force per engine. I guess the question is, first off, the planned payload is still Escapade, right? Does that not have a window given that it's a Mars launch?
There's some iffiness about that window, because apparently in the past they have demonstrated that apparently New Glen is so powerful because Escapade is tiny. I mean, Escapade is not really a payload you would usually launch on a New Glen. It's more of a, like, these just aligned up. New Glen can give it quite a bit of kick, and technically the window is just a window because it just limits the amount of delta V you will need to get there. But with New Glen being so powerful versus the payload size, there's a good chance that window can be fairly stretched. Right now, NASA still says spring of 2025, but it seems they have some flexibility in that window, and they can adjust it based on what New Glen can support. But yes, Escapade is very much the next expected launch on New Glen. And of course, Escapade being a twin payload that we can see here on the right side, on the left side.
And so they will need, though, this is a needed launch as well for NSSL contracts, right? For the basically getting all the Department of Defense, all the super secret security launches. Because as we saw with Vulcan and with most of these, it's usually 2 successful launches in a row for these, right? This is still a qualification flight.
Yeah, this is understood to be the second qualification flight. It's basically a matter of the Space Force kind of wants you to, or like in general, they want you to demonstrate, hey, we can get to space 2 times reliable. And after that, they're more inclined to give you missions, like a certification process. This is understood to be the second one. I think that at Vulcan, we have seen like a very similar situation right now, where they also go through these certification flights. So yeah, I mean, once that has been going, we have seen New Glen starting to get quite a few contracts. So I think at this point, it's more a matter of Blue Origin getting the cadence up, getting the reusability up. And once that is going, I mean, they have the contracts to really, really start to kick into gear here. And that company has shown quite some pace lately.
Yeah, I mean, we had the news break on one of the recent Flame Trenches about them and SpaceX all getting massive military contracts coming up, and some for ULA in there as well. I guess now the question is, do we know anything about where GS1, Glen Stage 1 is, and when we might see this roll out?
It is for sure in the hangar. We know basically even when the Flight 1 happened, they had a picture in the hangar that they posted, and basically GS1 for the second flight was kinda already there. It was a matter of like assembling the tanks and everything. Of course, the question then also becomes, where are the I would say the most complicated parts, like the engines? What is the status on the BE4 engines? I think that is a bit of a question. I don't have any doubt that at this point there's quite a few assembled tanks in that hangar. The question is just, do they have the engines to support it? And of course, with these kind of rocket stages, the devil is in the details, right? Like, there's getting 2 tanks together is one thing. Installing all the necessary hardware, plumbing, electronics, all of that to the stage is kind of the hard stuff. So that's probably where that stage is. But again, we cannot peek into that hangar. That's the disadvantage we have here. We don't know once BE4s will just appear there, and I'm sure they will, however, expose it. Blue Origin has shown in the last year that they are very eager to post milestones, and I think as soon as that New Glenn stage is ready, we'll get to know it.
All right. The ultimate question here when it comes to this new launch vehicle here. New Glenn's, how many flights more in 2025?
Say
you give your
2.
thoughts and I'll give mine.
I'm gonna say 2. I think there will be. I'm saying there will be Escapade somewhere in. I'm gonna say July-ish. That's my July, maybe August, somewhere in there. And I think they will sneak in Pathfinder Mission 1, or if that is not already, a Kuiper, somewhere before the end of the year in the November, December range.
So you're thinking one every 6 months at this point, 5-6 months.
Yeah, I think for this one first, yes. I think it will rapidly speed up once they get usability done. I think once they really start to reliably land boosters, I could see them start to go for one like every 2 to 3 months first. And I would totally not be surprised if we see like 5-6 launches next year, almost. I think there's a reasonable case that we see about 5 New Glenn launches next year.
I'm going to go out on a bold assumption here. I'm going to say 3, I think. Again, all of this assuming that all flights go exactly as they are supposed to, and there's no investigations needed, as there was with this one based off of the landing. I think that they can pull it off. If they get this one off in, say, June, maybe early July, and they kind of get that pace going, I think they can hit every 2.5 to 3 months at that point. We know that they already have hardware in the HIF and at Exploration Park. We've seen it. We know they have multiple vehicles ready to go, multiple stages ready to go. I think if all goes well, given that they have the demand with Kuiper there as well, I think we could see probably mid-June-ish with this one, hopefully. Then maybe one in September and one right towards the end of the year in December. It would be close, but I'm going to say maybe 3 this year.
I could see that. I really think they will reach somewhere at the end of next year. They will reach the cadence of 6 a year. Like that's the cadence needed for supporting 6 a year. Like I feel like that's for sure in the cards. They are ramping up quick, and I think it's all more a matter of how quickly can they produce these GS2s.
But Vulcan launching 6 times a year.
See, so I like Vulcan. But I feel like right now, with the pace that New Glenn right now is demonstrating and getting ready for the second flight, which is a remarkable pace for such a big rocket, by the way. They flew just at the beginning of this year, and they are already back with second stage testing. And there's a good chance that they're still targeting spring. That's a fairly quick cadence for such a big rocket. I think Blue Origin right now is demonstrating that they are able to support such a cadence, and I mean that's an impressive thing. I think that they're showing. Even if you look at the early days of Falcon Heavy, like ramping up these kind of cadences is not easy for big rockets. Even look at the first flight of Starship. Look at the time between first and second. Look at, like, rockets are complicated. Big rockets are even more complicated. And flying your first rocket in the beginning of the year and flying your second rocket potentially in the mid of the year, it's quite a cadence.
And I will say that Blue Origin has one thing going for it, in that right now it is the only rocket using that pad. 36 is just for New Glenn and New Glenn only, whereas 41 has to keep alternating currently between Atlas V and Vulcan. So, like we saw recently, they had to destack Vulcan, which was ready to go, to be able to stack Atlas and then roll that out for the Kuiper launch, which still hasn't launched yet, although at this point that's no earlier than this coming Monday. So, just another thought there.
Ryan in the back channel also saying Starship Flight 1 to Flight 2 was 7 months. Like, that's... Blue Origin could very much demonstrate a cadence similar or even lower than that.
That is true, yeah. So it'll be very interesting to see. Of course, once GS1 and all of that rolls out, we will keep an eye for it. You can also watch along with us at Space Coast Live, our 24/7 live cameras. We do have feeds there, our Cape cams that are looking over at Pad 36, in addition to 39's A, B, VAB, and all the other cool action going on there. So make sure you check it out. Hey, look at that. There it is. There's a live view of it right now with VAB. There's 36 in the bottom right. You've got them stacking ML2, and then of course, beautiful Launch Complex 39A, and its Starship Tower, which, speaking of Starship, smooth, huh? There's a lot going on with that. Adrian, I'm not even sure, where do we begin with this? Maybe with Ship 35, hopefully coming soon?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, it's a matter of when is that door opening and when are they going to roll out. So right now we are in a bit of what I will call rollout closure bonanza. Because there is, I think, 3 rollout closures at this point at different times that are scheduled. And some of them might be taken and some might not be taken. It's quite an interesting situation. You see them there. We have the 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. on April 26, 28, and then also at 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. on the 26th as well. The situation we have there right now is most likely, in theory, we have 3 objects that need to go to Masis. We have Ship 35, which needs to go there to be tested. We have Ship 36 going there for cryo test. And we have Test Tank 17. The mysterious Test Tank 17, which apparently there's another whole discussion attached to this, is also going to Masis. So we have, in theory, 3 objects that need to go there. So these might all go there in the matter of this week, in the matter of the next 2 days. We will see. But that is the current situation in terms of we will just have to wait and see what exactly rolls. And honestly, every single thing is very exciting. There's Test Tank 17 has some very, very interesting implications and some very interesting hardware on it. We can talk about that in a bit. But of course, the big star right now is Ship 35. Everything seems to be quite ready. Honestly, the orbital launch mount seems to be mostly waiting and some chopstick testing. The boosters, from what we can tell, ready. Everything seems to be kind of just waiting on that ship. And that ship is, of course, probably still being modified based on what SpaceX is right now understanding and learning about the root cause and the issue of the last 2 flights. And I'm honestly glad they're taking their time. Because I think the first time it happened, that happens, right? First, it's a problem. But if you go 2 flights without starting to progress again, even SpaceX, like that. This is not me trying to set the expectations low. This is SpaceX being disappointed after that. They said that on their stream. Like I'm not interpreting that. That's just their fact. So I think they're really trying to get this down now and understand what is wrong, because of course they got further earlier. So something needs to change, and I'm honestly glad they do that. I think that's a good thing, and I think that's why we see this longer gap right now. However, once they roll it out, they have to static fire it. And honestly, everything is waiting for it. It could be a matter of 2-3 weeks after static fire for the thing to launch again.
Explode me once, shame on you. Explode me twice, shame on me. Explode me 3 times, my head will then also explode.
Yes. I mean,
Something like that.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
so let me get a needle and some thread. I guess now, how soon then do you think we could be for a launch? I mean, that's always the question, isn't it? When launch?
I can't. I, I mean, I think so. The quickest turnaround time they ever have done between a ship static firing and them launching is 20 days. That's just like presenting this fact. Are they able to speed this up? Probably, because there's a good chance this ship is very ready once it static fires, and they just have to do final checkouts. I think realistically, I'm not giving you a date here. I'm giving you a prediction of static fire between static fire and launch, and I think it's 2 weeks-ish. So once that ship rolls out and static fires, I think it's about 2 weeks from there, then we will see a launch. So it's basically a rolling target. I could tell you right now, with them potentially rolling it out tomorrow or so, that my net launch date is probably around the 12th of May. And if they don't roll it out by next Monday, I will start to move that back to more midweek of the 15th or so. So it's more of a matter of this ship has to move, and then I can tell you where the launch probably will be. But my prediction is it will be 2 weeks after static fire.
I thought you were going to pull an Alex there and say, well, maybe it could launch soon, but I don't know. Thank you for giving an actual rough date. Love you, Alex.
That's I think that's my the week of the 12th. I think is my net week. That's I'm putting this out there. I don't think it will be before the 12th of May.
I'm going to go out and put May 22nd because it's the one day that I'm completely busy and unable to actually help with Starship just because of Murphy's Law.
That's a good indicator. We should check where people are like busy and where people have like doctor's appointment at NSF and stuff like that. And we could probably triangulate very accurately where it is.
Yeah, I'll be in New York City for those couple days, so probably right around there.
Yes, lock it in.
But in all honesty, though, when you think about it, because as you pointed out, they have to roll it out, static fire it, roll it back, check everything after the static fire. And again, that's assuming that the static fire all goes exactly as it's supposed to. Then we're stacking it on top of a previously flown booster, so who knows if there may be some issues they encounter while doing that. So you have to, I feel like, add in some extra wiggle room given the uncertainties of A, the changes after the last issue, and B, the fact that we're talking for the first time the reflight of a booster, that we might see a little extra time there. And I guess the other thing I'm wondering then too is, do you think maybe they'll do another one of those minute-long static fires for Ship 35? Because that helped so much on the last one. Or if they're going to modify how they do it.
I think there will be a weird profile in some shape or form. I think there's a good chance that we will see some testing, but I don't think I can predict which one. I think there's a good chance we will see some modified weird static fire. I just, by the way, found the worst day for it to happen. For me, personally. It's the 17th of May. It cannot be on the 17th of May, because that's my most important day of the year. That's the Eurovision Song Contest. So it cannot launch on the 17th. I'm invoking everything here.
Can I join in on the dates it can't be on? It can't be on June the 1st, because June the 1st is currently, we've got one game to go, but if we win that game, York City will be at Wembley in the promotion playoff final on June the 1st. So please don't do the Eurovision Song Contest or the 5th tier of English football final for playoff promotion.
There you go. That's I will forward this to SpaceX, but these are the days that don't work for us. Like, please. I love the Eurovision Song Contest. It cannot be that day. I'm begging you, SpaceX.
Forward it to the Eurovision people. Tell them to move.
No.
Oh my God. I will be on the Intrepid, actually, during that time, so I won't be able to be live for it. So let's hope not. I'd like to be able to hang with Alicia and not have both of us stressing about Starship. which, by the way, don't forget, there is a museum show coming up immediately after we finish here at the Flame Trench over on the Intrepid, in fact, talking about the Parker Solar Probe. And the mission to touch the sun, which has gotten its closest approach recently. Awesome stuff. It's really cool. And that will be followed after, in case you really want more Alicia, by This Week in Spaceflight twist coming up following the museum show. So there's still so much more coming here on NSF. That was actually worked out for a nice subtle plug transition there. Also, June 5th, apparently Mario Kart comes out, so not that day.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. June 5th also doesn't work for me. That's the Switch 2 release date of Mario Kart. So I'm just saying, like, if we start to mention things that don't work for us, that's also a bad day.
Oh boy. Well, a couple of quick questions then. First off, Severin's wondering, have we seen the Starlink simulators for Ship 35 yet, the dumb links, or do we even know if they'll be on this flight?
Good question. They are very able to. The thing is, I would expect that to be installed after static. That's the first thing I want to mention here. So, and Star Factory is quite big, so there's probably some stuff in there that we don't know, and there could be some dumb links in there as well. So that's a very good possibility. However, this might be after static fire. So they still have some time after they need to load this. And honestly, they can load these quite fast. Like the last time they did it in like one afternoon and we're done with it. So.
And I feel like at the same time, if we're talking about trying to prove the vehicle and all of the testing they want to do on it, especially if the fixes that they have made after the last 2 flights were successful, you kind of want to recreate it, which both Flight 7 and Flight 8 had those dummy Starlink payloads on board, right?
Yeah. I mean, the question is, at this point, do you want to change do you want to change the setup? Because then you might fix it without knowing what you actually fixed, because you just changed the parameters. Or do you want to exactly replicate the parameters besides the thing you suspect that's wrong and just change that because you want to understand the root cause? And knowing SpaceX, I think they go for the later, because SpaceX has no fear of blowing it up if they understand the fix.
Yeah, might as well put it on there. And hey, if you finally do make it into orbit, which hopefully they should get into or their planned sub-orbit orbit, then they'll actually be able to do the deploy, which is something that they've been wanting to test also for 2 flights now, is how that whole system will work. So.
Yep. And to be fair, I know people are always like, oh, you're like so negative about this. No, we are not. SpaceX is trying to solve an incredibly complicated thing. Starship is probably one of the most ambitious, most complicated things rocketry has ever attempted. And they are trying to fix this and get it working. And look at the shuttle history, to mention it. Look at how many RS-25s they had to blow up to understand how that engine works. Look at how many other rockets in the past, how many tests they had that didn't work before it worked. It's just something that can happen in rocket programs, and we are just in the luxurious position here that we can see it. Because we can see everything that is going on here, or like a lot. And that is just a cool thing. That doesn't mean like we are trying to talk problems in there. They have some problems right now. They are trying to solve some problems. But problems are normal in such a complicated program.
What? Trying to design and launch the largest vehicle ever designed, one of the most powerful ever designed by humankind, and all of that is having some issues? No.
Yeah, I mean, how dare they?
Which, by the way, do we even know if Mr. FAA person, any updates on the investigation into Flight 8?
I'm trying to recall if the safety investigation was already completed right now. I'm actually blanking if that... I know Flight 7 was completely closed. But was Flight 8, was they already... I don't expect them to be an issue, honestly, because Flight 8 wasn't, yeah. In the past, they have been relatively quick to get these safety determinations. Safety determination meaning the investigation itself is not closed, but we are closing the necessary part for you to return to flight. I think they just have not submitted the report yet, because they're not done with the report yet, because they're apparently still fixing and investigating. So I don't think regulatory will be an issue. That's my take on it.
That's the hope always, right? Let's see here. Also had a question about Booster 16. Do we think that might static fire before we see Flight 9 while we're talking about all the static fire stuff?
It is becoming increasingly more likely. It seems like that there might be some preparations going on to static fire a booster before the next flight. And honestly, if you still have 2 weeks or so, might as well go for it. They understand booster static firing fairly well. In the last campaign for booster static fire with rollout and rollback took like 3 days. So, I mean, why not? It's more a matter of, do you have the time and the readiness? And also there's a second part of this. Is this right now the most critical item you want to spend launch area time on? Because the moment you roll a booster out there, A, you close the road for the rollout and the rollback. That's 2 or 3 hours. And B, during the testing, you have to close the road. That is 6 or so hours that you cannot work on Pad B. So I think they're right now very much balancing how much time can we spend on testing versus how much time can we spend on infrastructure work. And they're doing some very critical stuff right now on Pad B. They are putting in place the 4 legs for the new orbital launch mount, which of course also needs some concrete pouring. They put concrete pour for the flame diverter and everything. And I think these concrete pouring, that is what they want to get done right now. They want to get the concrete poured and like starting to dry. And once that step is in place, they can take a bit more time to then static fire boosters again, because then the clock is running on that concrete.
Yeah, and also the fact that you would then, if you do the static fire, have to go out and check Pad A, check the OLM afterwards. If anything gets damaged or whatever, you have to refix that. So depending on how far away you are from trying to roll out 14 and 35 for the actual flight, you then have that to worry about as well. So
I kind
a
of
lot of stuff to think about.
I know we only have 2 more minutes, but if I might, I have quite a funny thing, because we should talk about naming conventions here.
Okay.
Because I've seen some recent confusion, because one thing that we have seen is SpaceX now referring to Test Tank 17 as a prototype for Booster Block 3, which we assumed previously was Block 2. But apparently, based on tweets we got in terms of from SpaceX and everything, from SpaceX employees and everything, we are now in a situation where Test Tank 17 is B3 booster prototype, and the old B2 booster is now B3 booster. I know we are short on time, I just wanted to get that out. Welcome to that. I will write about that in SPU.
I'm sure we'll hear about that in Starbase Update, and probably even get some more information on TWIS coming up. But before we get to TWIS, we have a live interview with our Astro Live series on the Intrepid about the Parker Solar Probe. But before we do that, Adrian, thank you so much for joining me here on the Flame Trench.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you to Jay Keegan pushing the buttons, pulling the levers. Thank you, Chris Bergen, for hopping on to talk about the history of NASA spaceflight at 20 years old. It can almost drink in the US.
Thanks, Sawyer.
And of course, thank you to our members. We couldn't do this without you, so thank you all. We appreciate you joining us here. Stick around. We're going to redirect you right now to that museum show. Let's all go watch. Have a good one.
And here we go.
We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RS-68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside, speed off. Bring in, speed off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. What is it? Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
we rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.